I just posted this clamp on my second woodworking channel, the red one, and it was a prototype that I had a little bit of a problem with during the build. First of all, I did it over several days, which is never good, and I gave up on my original concept, which was to have a metal plate that slides up and down to fit in this notch here to lock it in place. I thought it was going to be too finicky, too complicated to make it good. So I tried something else, or I thought about something else, but then I stopped on that. And anyway, if you want all the details on that video, it's on that channel. There's a link in the description. But right after, I went back to my, I guess you could say, my second idea. And it's very similar to the clamp that I'm modeling this after, actually. And it uses that metal plate. You can see it down here. And that locks into the notches on the bottom of the rod. Now, I wanted to do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, when you have the notches on the bottom of the rod, it's on the compression side of the arrangement here, so there's not much chance that the break in the grain that you would have on the top can split the wood, or make the wood split more easily. So it's stronger in that regard. Also, with the notches on the bottom, they're not on the top. So they're, they don't fill up with, bits of glue or whatever and stop working. When I compare it to this one here, which is the old one that I made, there's another advantage too. You can make the notches very small and closer together. I think I can actually make them closer than 1 inch apart, actually. 1 inch is pretty good though, because you can get it right in. I don't have the notches cut up far enough on this actually, but you can see how easy it is to adjust and just, put it in a new position. Directly comparing both clamps, this one is about the same weight because it's made out of hardwood. Of course, the hardwood bar will be a lot stronger than the softwood bar will be, but it also allows for parts to be more compact. So what you wind up with is something that's slightly smaller. So that's a good thing. That's what I find about this one, is it's kind of bulky. All of the parts are really chunky, and I don't know for certain if I could downsize them a little bit. Probably for your average panel glue up, absolutely, they don't have to be this big or this strong, because you're not really putting that much force. I mean, you're putting a lot of force, but the better strategy when you're clamping something up is to use more clamps than fewer clamps with more pressure. Before I put this one back over there, I gotta say one thing about this. I never did have a problem with the bar bending in this at all. I've clamped up several things that are pretty wide, and deflection of the bar was never a problem. So this appears to be strong enough. This, on the other hand, I don't think I'm going to have any issues whatsoever, and that's what I want to test now. I've got a piece of plywood here that's 42 inches long, and that's basically the maximum open capacity of this clamp arrangement right here. Okay, I'm going to try to angle the camera so that you can see what I'm doing here, or you can see the clamp if it starts to bend. And I've put a lot of force on this piece of plywood here already, and the bar has bent a little bit, but nothing that's unacceptable, that's for sure. And the arrangement here that I have is holding well. Doesn't seem to be, giving out or anything. I'll give it a couple more turns. And yeah, that looks good. The bend on the bar is minimal. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe, maybe not. I'll try to get a picture and put in there anyway. That's as much force as I would put from one clamp on any panel glue up. And the bend in the clamp itself is minor. It wouldn't have any effect on the panel glue up itself. I've moved on to the next test now, which is to check the notch spacing on these things. I've cut a new notch in here. All I did was on my table saw with my mini table saw slide and cut it the same size as the other ones, and I'll actually put the thing in there. And I've got this piece of oak flooring to check. It's a little shorter than I wanted, but I've got lots of rod here. I've got lots of rod here. Right. Now, the one thing about this is that it's going to test a couple things. What I wanted to test is the durability of having the notches closer together. If that breaks out, which is possible, even if it passes this test at some point in the future, that could break out. So it might be better to stick with the 1-inch spacing anyway, but I want to test it. And this will also test just how strong the arrangement is overall, because I'm going to really crank this up here. Now, these parts are just attached. I put this one together with construction adhesive and just 23 gauge brads or pins in here to hold it in place until I could clamp it up. And that's set overnight. Exactly the same arrangement here on the fixed jaw, just construction adhesive gluing it in place. One thing that could make it stronger is to put pins through, say, dowels or even screws. That may, add some shear strength. I'm not entirely convinced, though, because the glue really does a good job of that already. I don't know that, breaking that up with pins of any kind will actually add that much to it. The other thing is the attachment of that plate in here. I used one of these 2.5-inch number 10 screws, and it's driven right into the block of wood that's on the bottom here, and it's also glued in with construction adhesive, so I'll be testing that as well. Okay, I'm going to start cranking it and see what gives first. At this point, this is where I would stop if I'm gluing this up, because it doesn't need any more force than that. I wouldn't go any further than this. And looking at it, everything still looks a-okay. But I'm going to go further. I'm going to try to break it. Maybe having my hand in there is not a good idea. It's just this handle is very hard to turn. Now it's really, really hard to turn. But there's a definite bend in the bar. I don't know if you can see that. And everything is still completely intact. So first thing I'm learning from this, I don't want to go any further because it's really tearing up my hands trying to turn this. If I had a different knob on here or handle on here, I might do better. But the first thing I'm learning from this is that pins through these parts over here are just a waste of time. You don't need them, because this connection with the glue is strong enough. I know you guys want to see more. I know you guys want to see a break. I didn't build this to keep. I built this to break. That doesn't mean I have to break it, but I want to see, I'm curious to see what the failure point is. I'm actually curious to know if I'm still recording, because that's important. If I'm not recording now, you're not going to see it. Yeah, still recording. I think I'm actually going to transfer it up to my vise so that I won't have to try to hold the bar. Okay. I'm just going to snug it up there. In no way does this vise make that bar stronger, by the way. I've got my vice grip on the wrong side. Let's get that going. And I'm hearing some cracking. More cracking. There it goes. Too bad the camera wasn't on this side. because that's where it broke. It snapped right across the 1/4 inch plywood, which is astounding. To be honest, that's the last place I would have expected it to break. The split right across there. I thought it would, tear away from the sides, or, the plate would come out. But the plate, I think I've got the winning combination here. The plate, you can see it right here, absolutely undamaged by any of this. And it's just screwed in, like I said, with that longer screw, if I can locate it, which I can't. So I'll get a new one, because I have more. With this longer screw, and this screw is big and strong, and it will hold the plate in. But I don't think that this point is actually seeing that much force back, because when this pushes this way, it's pushing down on the rod too, so it's digging in, and it's really gripping onto the top of the bar, you could say. So anyway, so that's it. That's where it fails. That's the weakest point. The solution for that is to obviously not use it as much as that, because it will apply more than enough force. The other thing you could do is use better plywood. This is just 3-ply fir plywood. If you were to use Baltic birch plywood, that would make it a lot stronger. 1/2 inch plywood, even cheap 1/2 inch plywood, would make it way, way stronger. I don't think it would ever break here. I think some other part would fail. But like I say, you've gone way past any point where you'd be applying reasonable pressure for your typical glue up.